Lately, I have been going back to thinking about my childhood for sentimental reasons. It's normal. Everyone does it. I think everyone needs to look back at the many decisions and experiences we lived throughout to make sense of ourselves. We understand that our past self has lived through the experiences that shape us, and yet we will never be able to go back to our younger days. We can only recall the memories, like recordings in our minds. I remember this memory clearly. Me and another friend were talking about the games we had on the Wii while we were on lunch break. He would tell me about this Wii Sports Resort, a different version of the original game which I had. There was this minigame where you could fly a plane through an island, and if you flew into a hole into a mountain, it turned out to be a volcano, and you could fly away from the top before erupting. I don't know why, but that concept resonated with me. It made me realize that there was so much entertainment I was unaware about. What other games, videos, experiences were out there?
Anyways, Fnaf has turned 11 years old. I've been putting off this video for 12 months. So where do I even begin? I knew that the concept of making a video about Fnaf was a daunting one, but it's with good reason why, since there's so much to talk about. And though it's true that the franchise has been in a quality decline in the past few years, the recently released Secrets of the Mimic has redeemed the series and the reputation of now the series creator Steelwool. But before that, let's talk about the start, the beginning of the series. Is this a joke or something? Chipper and Son's Slumber Co. marks the start of the franchise in a very convoluted way. The creator, named Scott Cawthon, was an independent video game developer since 1996, to very little success. But with every new game he released, his skills kept getting better. Characters started to be more refined, gameplay more innovative, and some of his games, like The Desolate Hope and Chipper and Sons, got green light into Steam. And yet, it wasn't enough. Until a review from Chipper and Son's Slumber Co. hit his feed. It complained about the gameplay, but it also pointed out how creepy the characters moved.
You may notice the dead, terrifying, soulless eyes of the background characters.
So, robotic, and lifeless.
It's just all over the fucking place, and that thing looks like it's gonna kill your children.
You see where I'm going, right? Inspired by these hate-filled reviews, Scott decided to try to implement these robotic designs to make a horror game. And it was pretty good.
Oh, great heaven!
How? How did this game become so successful that it spawned a whole franchise of games, multiple books, unlimited fan games, and 2 movies? That is something I want to answer today. What was the success formula for Five Nights at Freddy's? For that, I'll be referencing mainly the first game because it will be the easiest to illustrate my point. In my opinion, the way Five Nights at Freddy's attained such success is due to gameplay, aesthetics, and story, and how these attributes combine and play off each other. Let me give you an example. Foxy is the third animatronic introduced into the gameplay loop, but I think he is the most memorable moment in the whole game. But for that, I have to put you in the perspective of the player. It's the third night, and you finally adapted to the controls. Thanks to the camera system, you also have a mental map of the whole pizzeria. You understand that you have to close the doors right when the animatronic is in front of it. At this moment, you enter a certain rhythm. That's what happens in every game. The gameplay first introduces an easy to understand obstacle, and when you prove yourself capable of overcoming it, it represents you with another challenge. But it's the way that this obstacle is presented that changes things. The first thing you will see when you open up the camera system is the main cast still in their performance pose, and yet stiff, as if they are frozen statues. But if you look around, you will eventually find another stage, saying, out of order. There's a curtain covering the whole stage, so even if you wanted to check that it was nothing, you couldn't. But it's okay because whatever is behind it, it's broken and shouldn't move. It's now the third night, and you probably get an idea of how the 2 animatronics you've been fighting work. But then you suddenly hear You never heard that before. You quickly check every camera to see if something is different, if there's something wrong, and then you remember that broken off stage that looked like it was hiding something. And you see it. A pirate's hook coming out of the purple cloth. You're surprised. You remember the words the phone guy said last night, and you decide to keep a close eye on whatever that is. You anxiously defend yourself against the other animatronics while keeping an eye on that mysterious creature. Hours pass, and you finally see his face, already looking at you straight through the camera. More time passes. More anxiety accumulates, and you probably already closed the door because of this. His next phase. He completely decides to stop looking straight at the camera, decides to focus on one of the hallways leading into your office. The next time you try to see him, it's already too late.
Hey dude, just wanted to let you know the pizza's ready. I'm sorry, what time?
Foxy is a perfect example of how well Fnaf sets up a formula and tone, and then breaks it. In the first 2 nights, you internalize that these robots won't move if you're looking at them, and they will only be a threat by standing next to the door. So, seeing an unknown mascot coming out of the curtains and immediately running straight towards your direction is horror-inducing. Something similar also occurs with Freddy, with him only becoming a threat on the 5th night, and working similar to Chica, but only moving when he laughs. But just the fact that the main attraction decided to not move an inch from his spot until the final act gives him a kind of aura I have never seen before in a horror game. And even their mannerisms are still scary. Chica, for example, always has her mouth completely open and crooks her head to the direction of the cameras, while Freddy likes to hide himself on the shadows of the pizzeria, and you are only able to see him when his bright eyes pierce through the darkness. Foxy learned his mannerisms through his crack pipe jiu-jitsu master, and Bonnie looks awkward as fuck on almost every camera because Scott literally forgot to give him eyebrows. What I mean is that anyone can put a model in a dark room, but it's harder to make them part of the atmosphere. You get it, right? The visuals elevate the game from a slightly unnerving close-the-door simulator to a bombshell that has completely changed the landscape of horror media forever. And I know, that sounds very stupid to say that without the visuals, the game wouldn't be that popular. It's like saying you like animation in your cartoons and silverware when you eat your fucking food. But what I'm pointing out is that Fnaf 1's visuals are genius. And here is why. Fnaf 1 uses contrast almost everywhere. Like how The Office uses a warm color palette, while the rest of the rooms shown by the cameras are drowned in a blue darkness, symbolizing how you're standing in the only safe place of the restaurant. And also gameplay-wise, such as the contrasts seen in the cameras and the colors of the cast. Due to the fact that the whole pizzeria is closed, there are barely any lights, so everything is drowned in shadows, except for the gang that, thanks to their bright colors and the fact that low bitrate has not been invented yet, make them easier to spot. Not only that, even the camera angles show how well thought out the visuals were. Just understanding that there's 2 hallways that, even though they share the same function, each of them have a distinct style that makes it useful in a horror and gameplay sense. Other great uses of the camera also include the bird's eye view in the closet right next to the light bulb, which makes so little sense. Why did they put a camera there? And of course, the great view we have of the dining room, where you are not even able to see the walls, only having this liminal atmosphere of party hats neatly assembled for the party coming tomorrow, while you see the characters roaming around it. And don't even get me started on the textures. Oh god, you could eat off these textures. The tile floor, which changes from black and white in the employee rooms, except for the dining area where it's red and blue. The many different ornaments glued to the walls, such as pizzas, clouds, and string stars. The walls, these fucking walls, using the red lines with the black and white tiles in the middle that goes all around the whole pizzeria. You can even see the paint grid over so much dirt and probably even mold. Dude, if you make a hole in these walls, I will personally fill it with my own cock. Okay, I think I'm done. If it weren't for the...
Hello? Hello? Hey there, are you the guy who drilled that hole in the closet wall yesterday? Dude, you're fucking gross. I'm giving Foxy a strap-on and draining your battery to only 10% for that. Prepare your asshole, kiddo.
God, I love that guy. Scott should give himself a pat on the back and another $1,000 to spend on any other right-wing politician, because he absolutely nailed all of the phone calls in all of the games. And I love how he sounds so nonchalant and stutters all throughout the call, while basically implying that you're stuck with killer robots.
The animatronic characters here do get a bit quirky at night, but do I blame them? No.
Makes me think that the mystery surrounding the franchise is more of a public secret between the workers and the higher-ups at the company.
Fazbear Entertainment is not responsible for damage to property or person. Upon discovering that damage or death has occurred, a missing person report will be filed within 90 days or as soon as property and premises have been thoroughly cleaned and bleached and the carpets have been replaced. Blah, blah, blah. Now, that might sound bad, I know, but there's really nothing to worry about.
And this is just me, but the fact that he's so nonchalant about his death on the fourth night makes me feel like he has some kind of mental deficiency, which would explain why he decides to keep working at the Chuck E. Cheese gulag and seems unfazed at the threat of a horrible death. So much that he even records the voice messages we hear on our night shift in his own night shift. All of these reasons make FNAF one of the most important games in the indie space and horror space combined. And yet, the franchise reputation has dwindled. Maybe it's because of the child audience, maybe it's because of the later games, or maybe it's just the fact that it's the origin of one of the most despised genres of games, mascot horror. Slop. That is basically the word that can describe the state of horror media to this point. Gloomy, empty rooms where people used to work or be in. A game pretty to look at and not so much playing it. A childish character that turned demonic and evil. A big bad guy behind all of it that never gets caught. A story made to be difficult to understand. And porn. Let's not forget about porn. That just sounds like Five Nights at Freddy's, right? And yet, I feel like it's uncalled for to be associated with the worst of the genre. The original Five Nights at Freddy's did not have microtransactions, it did not have chapters, and it did not have performance issues. The first FNAF game is a clean and enjoyable product from day one, and it still is. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it literally innovated the whole survival genre and got compensated for it. And Scott made it in 6 months by himself
with a bunch of scraps!
And I get it, right? I'm looking too deeply into a game that I have not even played myself. Look, I'm a very busy man. Like, as an animator, I have buttons to press. Look, it's not like I'm scared. 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 But I would also like to comment about how gameplay and aesthetics can either work together or against. There is nothing more disappointing to see that you have a set of different characters, and most of them are dealt with a toy mask. This is something I think the fan games have an upper hand against the main line of games, and that is they understand the importance of good gameplay to accentuate the horror aspect. It does feel like Scott forgot to add more enjoyable mechanics after the first game, while fan games have created new gameplay loops. And this last point comes with the territory, but even gameplay has its limitations, because there will be a point in the game that you get the grasp of the mechanics, and as you fail and get better at surviving, it reduces all of the creepy visuals, sound design, and tension of the game into gameplay indicators, reminding you that this is just a game. But what really pains me to see it is that in the increase of the difficulty and implementation of a strategy, you stop relying on certain mechanics like cameras or lights, making the game more about quick thinking and reaction speed. But sadly, there is no real solution to this. At one point or another, the game runs out of tricks, and it stops being a horror game, only having the jump scares as a punishment for failure. Okay, we've discussed gameplay, aesthetics. I'm forgetting one, right?
Was that the bite of 87? 87? Purple guy!
That's just a theory. A game
So here's the thing,
theory.
EDP. In the 1970s, William Afton and
What if
Henry
Freddie
Emily
Person
opened
said
a
all your
restaurant
base are
named
belong to
Fredbear's
us?
Pizza.
I'd
Secretly,
lol,
a
and then I'd
serial
slam the door
killer
on his head and kill him.
Spring Bonnie costume to lure abducted murdered researching the paranormal, haunted metal known as Remnant.
I will fuck the shit out of that robot, man. I'm not even...
John Carmack, one of the developers of the original Doom, when being asked about narratives implemented in video games, was quoted by saying, "Narrative is gay." And sadly, John Carmack, I will have to disagree on this one. Since the beginning, Fnaf's story has always been a point of contention in the community. Back in the first game, the lore was discovered as part of Easter eggs. The series has always hinted at a story where crucial plot points or events are hinted at but not elaborated on. That's on the player to piece it up together. And this works great because it builds up mystery for newer titles and also brings the community together to discuss and theorize the story to that point. And I do think that Scott made this intentionally, just by the fact that the sequel of the first game is actually a chronological prequel. But somewhere along the way, we kind of became absolutely insane. Remember when Game Theory got mad that some fat guy kept making fun of how many FNAF videos they made, they're up to 113. This puts the Library of Alexandria to shame. But we shouldn't look at these with disgust. Theorizing is an art form. The world was not ready for the Sister Location X adult entertainment theory. And I tell you, this was a drug. The rumor that a mystery or theory being confirmed by Scott and the timeline getting more and more into shape was a monumental achievement for a 15-year-old that hadn't discovered porn. But now, we're at a point where we have enough puzzle pieces to have a clear image of what the story is. Sure, we might be missing some pieces, and some pieces have 4 corners, and that box is still not open. But let's be civil. Now that we can see a clear timeline of events and know almost every important player in the story, we can definitely say that the story is good. But it's not as good as you think. The premise is great. I do have to say that. 2 friends become co-workers, and due to the many tragedies in their life, they turn into enemies. One of them becoming crazy with the power of life and death, trying to control it, becoming a monster in the process, and the other running after him to clean the mess he made. And in the end, the poor souls that got stuck in the middle of this hell, while trapped suffering in mechanical and cold bodies, are finally freed and are able to pass into heaven or hell. See? Good. But there is still a big narrative problem that I feel like the series never was able to answer, and that is the treatment of the characters. Five Nights at Freddy's is a story about mistakes, monsters, sins of the father, yada yada yada. And yet, the characters that should be expanded on for committing these actions never appear or are characterized in any way except in very few moments. So we never get a real introduction or even insight into the character except they're evil or good. And that's a really big problem. We have characters that are only seen committing actions with barely any explanation. We don't even get a clue into what these characters think or act or behave, but we do know how they finally ended up, and that is such a letdown. It makes the characters out to be up for interpretation, and that is the reason that the story is so hard to understand. Because if they do try to characterize these characters, it will make it easier to piece everything together. The story is working against itself. But the fact is, I do think Scott knew, and that's why he wrote side material that can make aspects of the story easier to understand while keeping us still in the dark. Now, it does sound like I'm saying that this system of writing doesn't work, but it actually did work. For the first 3 games, the characters, or lack thereof, weren't noticed because they were mainly used as archetypes and tools to set the story. But also, the story didn't interfere with the main gameplay. The story was basically used to answer why the animatronics are moving in the first place. You would probably be satisfied by knowing that spirits are controlling the animatronics because they want to seek revenge against the man that killed them. That premise works great, especially in the third game where the bad guy gets his comeuppance. But then we get to the fourth game, and everything took a different turn. Now, you are not some nobody security guard. You are now an actual character that's related to other different characters, and all of them have different goals and objectives. So now that little premise you had for the first 3 games is not enough to keep the player satisfied. So how will the next game adapt to this changed in narrative direction? They added talking robots.
Hi, my name is Carmen Winston.
And don't even get me started on the Steel Wool era. Burn Trap. Fucking Burn Trap? What are we doing? Oh no. It's actually the Mimic. You know, the Mimic? The character that's always been there? We all know the Mimic. This is now the Mimic era. Remember when Banny was gonna be the next bad? And then they fucked it up so much that they had to rewrite a new antagonist? I thought Vanessa was an interesting new direction for the series. A fanatic psychopath that finds out about the killings that were done in the original Freddy Fazbear's, and they just decide to do it again in a new establishment. But no, it's actually Burn Trap controlling her, and she actually is 2 people or has a split personality. This is having your cake, eating it, and fucking it too. What are we doing, man? But the fact is that all of this, all of these narrative problems tie back to one single factor. The purple guy. I still vividly remember how I discovered the series. It wasn't by stumbling upon a video or hearing somebody talking about it, but it was a really weird coincidence. I was at music class, and our professor tried to put on a video about the theme song of Pirates of the Caribbean played on the flute, but by accident he clicked on another flute video that was playing the fan music of The Living Tombstone. What really captivated me was the image the video used. Instead of the same logo the channel would always use for the videos, this one, he was wearing the mask of a bear. I don't remember a lot about the class after that, but I remember coming out of it, and just for the sake of making conversation, I asked one of my classmates,
Secondly, blue is not even a natural colour for foodstuffs. It occurs very rarely in nature. Name me one blue food. Blueberries are fucking purple!
William Afton, or more commonly known as the Purple Guy, is the most important character in all of Fnaf canon, due to the fact that his actions and family members are the ones who kickstarted the events of the entire series. Every tragedy is caused directly or indirectly because of his actions. He is the bad guy, basically. But as I said before, we never get a satisfying reason for him to cause all of this. I mean, we do get hints, such as the "I will put you back together" line from the 4th game, and him making his daughter not visit the Claymore Roomba that is baby. That tells us he did care for not all, but some of his children. But at the same time, he created the least child-friendly robots on the whole series. He killed a bunch of children, and this is just speculation. I don't think Scott has confirmed it, but I think his car is not electric, which is bad for the environment. The canon explanation given by the books is that when a child dies and gets put inside of an animatronic, they start to secrete a type of life juice called remnant, which is the main ingredient for galaxy gas. I really don't like random as a concept. It comes out of place for the setting and takes away from the mystery. So now we have a character that cares for his children, but kills a lot for his benefit. He worked and collaborated with his partner for many years, then proceeds to roadkill his daughter. We have an irredeemable monster with a glimmer of hope. And that's all we have. Remember, we never get an actual in-game explanation nor reason for his actions in any of the story, which makes him a great target for speculation and really bad for the narrative. Because if all we have for this character is speculation, then the narrative can shift in a matter of a second. Oh, he's a bad guy, so of course he doesn't care for his children. Then why did he have him in the first place? Was this part of his plan? Or is he a good guy turned bad guy? Then why isn't he trying to revive his children by any means necessary? But right now, I want to bring up a piece of fan creation that motivated me to make this video. I'm talking, of course, about family comes first. I feel like every year, people do something amazing just to honor the things they love. Fan creations in general are being produced in more quantity than anything original, and it's easy to see why. Since parting off what somebody else made gives you a good groundwork to make whatever you want. Of course, not every piece of fan art will be created the same, but I think that standard is increasing. TF2 might have one of the most talented communities that reside on the internet. Any video made on the game will include great editing and creativity. And also there are the SFM animations containing so much absurdist humor and strange new animation techniques. They even made a game about it. I'm saying all of this to clarify that family comes first is not the emesis blue of the Fnaf fandom, but it gets pretty close. The whole movie basically retells the events from the end of the third game to all that happens in Pizzeria Simulator, taken from the point of Springtrap. The movie is basically an excuse to do a character study on this version of the character, where we get to draw the line between where the human starts and the monster ends, or seeing if there even was a line all along. And yes, the movie is surrealist. Yes, it's hard to interpret what is real or not. And yes, it is a bone-chilling, character development driven, cheap, jump scare free, emotionally draining, slow burn slog. But that's mainly the start of the film. When the characters start finally making decisions, it becomes more bearable. What I really love about this film is the dynamic between William and All Man Consequences. A very minor character of the whole series, and yet he is so well characterized in this story, playing as the Virgil to his Afton's Inferno. Through these conversations, we get to hear small specks of William's life before the events of the series, and how he judges his previous actions with the hindsight of the people and family he hurt to satisfy his curiosity. Every scene feels different from the next, and almost all of them gives us more information to understand this new character. But who is this purple guy? What is he? He's a psychopath, plain and simple. I know how much you guys like your Hannibal Lecters, your Boogie 2988s, and your gambling addicts. He may even be a sociopath, but the thing is that he is very hard to feel sorry for. He doesn't regret anything that he has done. He doesn't even apologize. He is an irredeemable monster. And yet, you find yourself feeling empathy, not because of anything he has done or he will do, but for the situation he finds himself in.
Remember how I said I lived like most people?
I do. What about it?
Before I killed my first victim, I had never gone to the theater.
And it affected the way you see movies. Is that it?
Yes. It was that very night. I didn't even wash my hands. I expected the film to distract me from what I had done. I couldn't even enjoy movies like everyone else ever again. I felt terrible because I couldn't appreciate art the way I should.
But you didn't feel terrible for what you did, right?
didn't really care. I don't really care.
Every time I was watching and rewatching the movie, it felt like I had to pause on every single scene to appreciate all the details. The framing, the camera angles, the lighting, the color design, the sound effects. Even the aspect ratio. Every single decision felt like it had a motive and was executed perfectly. Some shots don't even need characters to be moving to already unnerve you, and most of them are also static. Sometimes you can only see the lifeless characters breaking through the background, like if you were seeing them through a camera. It's incredible how this movie manages to give off the same uneasy feeling that the first games do. And let's not forget about the handmade models specifically created for this movie. These things will follow you to your nightmares, and they will follow him straight to hell.
If you could go back in time, would you change anything?
Probably not. I would likely change my methods. But I don't really mind now.
This purple guy might be one of the most vile interpretations of the character. Even if you look past his treatment of his own kids, the many children he has killed, and the fact that he ate their hearts because he thought that would redeem him. No, the biggest nail in the coffin is that he doesn't even feel sorry. Even after all the hurt he has caused to himself and everybody around him, he can't even pity the ones he has killed. He understands that he is terrible, that he is a monster, but he doesn't sympathize with any of his victims. He is too stuck on his own ego and legacy to be preoccupied about anyone else. And yet, there isn't any fight over the matter. The other characters hate him, they loathe him, but they don't fight because they understand that their circumstances won't change. One of the high points of the film is the confrontation between Cassidy and William. Cassidy being the spirit that resides on Golden Freddy. And even when she is in front of the person she has hated the most, Golden Freddy makes a ceasefire while she was desperately trying to get revenge for the person that put her soul into that rotten machine. She finds out that her parents died 10 years ago, still waiting for her to return. And even though Springtrap just does not care nor empathize with this feeling, he does feel a similar sentiment. Even if he is a monster, even if he wishes to continue his torment, he is tired. He was stuck behind a concrete wall for 30 years, sitting inside his moldy coffin and soaked in his own blood. And the truth is that his situation, all of his torture and agony, was indirectly caused by his own actions. So even though he is still a stoic and psychopathic child killer, it must be hard for him to know he was his own undoing. He won't really feel regret, but truly shame.
Really? I think you did it to see how far you could get. What? Do you want me to lie to you?
I haven't heard a good lie in a while.
Well, I think you were a good father, and that your creations were quite innovative.
Do you really believe that?
Believe what?
That I was innovative?
At the end of the movie, after everything is done, our villain descends down into the pits of hell, confronting what seems to be a past version of himself. The version that seems to represent the sadistic killer we all know and hate, and it demands that the ragged body rotting inside his own creation should go back up those stairs and continue his rampage. But the husk of the same killer denies the request. He is tired. He's been awake for 30 long years, and now what did he even leave behind? His atrocities were turned into a story and sold to millions of spectators. He is nothing more than a joke. And now, he is nothing. He just wants to end the show himself before everyone stops watching. Of course, most of what I told you is my own interpretation of what is shown. The film likes to get really meta at the end and hint at new information that was never even mentioned before. Like both of the Yellow Rabbits saying they had a deal, the fact that William might have hidden the real events of the story, and that box. You get one. Everybody gets one. But the fact is that I really wanted to share this amazing film so that it gets the attention it deserves, and to finally analyze a good interpretation of one of the most emblematic villains in all of horror media history. And I do think that William Afton deserves to be hated and feared, because I believe that the main force pushing the story events should be more than a guy doing an evil laugh, saying his catchphrase, and then dying. In the 2023 Fnaf movie, William Afton appears in the last 5 minutes of the movie and does exactly that. Wow, great transition. I know, thank you. I just discovered the Transitions video tab on Adobe Premiere Pro. But it would be irresponsible of me if I didn't bring up what the present Fnaf brand is up to now, and how it has changed its tone and demographic. And let's make something clear. This wasn't just Steelwoolf's fault. Changes such as introducing voice characters and the change from a trilogy of books to a bunch of short stories makes me believe that Scott had more of an involvement into turning Fnaf to what now seems to be a very shallow but glossy game direction about children rotting in fursuits. So it's true that Fnaf has taken a more child-friendly direction. The biggest example being Security Breach. That was a very important and risky step for the franchise in general. In the end, it turned out worse than you could have ever imagined because of what seems to be poor pre-planning mixed with a big scope and enough bugs to raid the streets of New York. And though it's true that Scott tried to satisfy the hunger for more horror-oriented games through the Fanverse initiative, he could not foresee that his biggest enemy would stop him. 16-year-old white girls. But Ludo, what did you think about the actual FNAF movie? Yeah, it was alright. And that's all it needed to be. You have to understand that just the existence of this movie alone was everyone's expectations. People wanted the idea of seeing this series of indie games made by one guy being represented on the big screens, and they got it. The movie only needed to pander to the children who were too excited to even know what was going on. So even if it does a poor job representing the games, and it makes a mockery of the unnerving horror that made it popular, while also not trying to take itself seriously, it at least has the animatronics and the purple guy. So the rest is not important. Because most of the expectations were seen if the movie was even gonna get made. So when it got made, many were watching with rose-tinted glasses. I don't expect the next movie to even do half as well, if it doesn't even try to make a more interesting and faithful interpretation of the games. But the movie made $300 million at the box office alone, so what do I know? Maybe they have a good thing going. So that's it? FNAF fell off? What we have now is a more childish and inoffensive direction that still clings to the most overrated character of the series and making even worse antagonists to replace them. And you know, I get it. It's sad to see a series with so much nostalgia lose its identity to pander to children. But now that I think about it, I was a child when I got into the series, about 11 years old. When did I get so attached to a series that was clearly not for me? What if I'm the reason? What if we were the ones to change Five Nights at Freddy's? Now, that sounds crazy, right? The fact that we, the original fans, are now complaining about the new direction of the series that was influenced by our own actions? What kind of point is that? How did I convince them to make this? Do you even have any proof? Is this only for you to make a smart-sounding conclusion for your video essay? What kind of proof do you have? Well, the only proof I have is that when I got back from school, I went to my grandfather's house. They were renovating our old house, so I was sleeping in a bed that wasn't mine. I pulled out my tablet and decided to Google the name of the game my friend told me about. I was hesitant at first. My mind was racing to understand what this game would be like, and yet I couldn't wrap my head around it. I clicked on the first result that appeared. It wasn't even the game itself, but a recreation in the form of a Gmod map. The person playing was a South American YouTuber that would later send a video of him jerking off in the shower to 15-year-old girls, but that isn't important right now. After watching some of the video, I wasn't getting the point. I couldn't stop shaking. What was that? I couldn't sleep. Even if I tried to, I could only think about that face. I had nightmares that day. The next day at school, I was intrigued. I had to know more. I needed to. What did I see? Other classmates that knew about the game told me other scary details, like there are actually 3 games, children dying in a pizzeria, a fox with a claw, a chicken that can take off its beak, there being a man rotting in one of the suits, an amalgamation of wires and limbs. Every question confused me even more. I couldn't seek the answers for myself. I just couldn't. So I took the cowardly route. I butchered it. I took the horror out of the horror game. Animation memes, fan songs, funny moments, parodies. I never gave the game a chance. I was scared. I was a coward. But little by little, day by day, I was finally just a fan of the game. I like the characters, the mystery, the visuals, and all of that replaced my fright. As a kid, Five Nights at Freddy's was so horrific, but at the same time so intriguing. And as children usually do, they simplify things so that they were able to understand. The horror then was not a selling point, but an obstacle for finally understanding the game. But now, such obstacle does not exist. Now, the robots have voice lines and personalities. The characters are inoffensive, the story's a mess, and the horror is replaced by annoyance. But just like the franchise changed, so did we. We grew to be stronger and smarter. Now, not even the horror of the original games are enough to even flinch us. We dissected the horror. Now, behind the evils of the night it is hard to see them for what they actually are. A movement counter, useful sound cues, mechanics to invalidate their attacks. We changed FNAF, and FNAF changed us. It's just that simple. It's crazy how much a game can affect me, even when I haven't played it. I'm glad I got scared. It was the first time I knew that there was so much media out there waiting to change me, to either scare me or to sadden me or even confuse me. My world grew under the covers that I was hiding that night. And yet, that fear never truly left me. Because I am scared of Five Nights at Freddy's. But before that, it used to terrify me.
Yeah, you want to test that, buddy? You want to test
Sure,
that, buddy?
buddy.
Come on, buddy. Let's test that. Yeah, I'm faster than you.